Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritam Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. So this particular sutra, Gaunaschayanna Atma Shabdat, just we have concluded it. So, matter cannot be literally a seer. That's against our experience. It's not evident. Therefore, when we say that the source saw and created, definitely that source was a conscious being. The source must be a conscious being. Only a conscious being can see. Can see means can be aware. All seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, these are all nothing but being aware. So, it is only the conscious being that can be aware. So, if the source saw, became aware and created, then definitely the one who created the source cannot be an inert matter, cannot be some matter. The source has to be Chetanam. And the Purvapakshi tried to say, no, it is a Gauna Ikshatyadhikaranam, means as though saw Gaira, like Kulampi Patishati. I say here, why, when the Mukhyatvam, generally you don't straight away take. Here comes a line when somebody says, you look around, and if there is no literal line, first you look for the literal sense. And when the literal sense doesn't apply, then you go for a figurative sense, but straight away you don't go for a figurative sense. That is illogical. That's not the way that you approach the language. You first look for a literal sense, and if it is not applicable, then you interpret it in a figurative sense. The bank of a river wants to fall, that want. First we understand the want, literally want is not possible. The bank of a river cannot want to fall because it doesn't have a will. It doesn't have a will because it's not conscious. So I first hear the Vakyam, Kulam pipatishati, Kulam patitum ichchati, wants to fall, then I understand that it can't have a want, then I interpret that sentence in a Gaunartha. Then I look for the Gauna Vritti, that means then I interpret it as secondary. Meaning it wants to fall means that's a manner of speaking. That's called as though. That as though, that is called wants to fall. But without first looking for the literal sense, you can't straight away jump for the Gauna Vritti. That's wrong. So, first of all, we have to, here the Shastra says the source saw, uncreated. And that source cannot be, first we have to see the Mukhya, and that applies. The conscious being as the source is applicable because ultimately the Vakya says that source thou art, the conscious being. So if the source were inert matter, then it can't say, it would not have said, the Shastra would not have said, well, that source, the matter thou art. That source, the inert thou art. This kind of message cannot be given to a person who is conscious. A conscious being cannot be, told that you are inert. Body is inert, but not you. That you refers to the conscious being. And therefore, the Shruti literally thinks that this source is indeed literally conscious being, and that conscious being which is the source of the Jagat is in fact none other than the one who is aware of the consciousness. If the source, the conscious being, if the source of the universe, the source, the conscious being, if it were something different from the one who is aware of the universe, then really that is something other than the one who is aware. We don't come across another conscious being. The only conscious being that is available is the one who is conscious of the world. It is this very conscious being who is conscious of the world that is explained away by the Shruti. Hey, you are not divided from what you see. You are indeed the truth of what you see. Because drishyam can never be divided from drishti. The form can never be divided from the sight. We are drishti. We are that sight. When you say I am aware of the form, there is a sight. And one's existence is in the form of that very sight. How can we divide the form from the sight? So, if there is a real division between the form and the sight, then I should be able to prove, meaning the form should be independent, form should be evident, independent of the sight. How can the form be independent? How can the form be evident, independent of the sight? It is always evident in the sight. It's never evident outside the sight. In fact, it is not evident to the sight, it is evident in the sight. You see, it is not evident to the sight. The dream is not evident to us, it is evident in us. It appears to me, it appears in us anyway. The dream world appears not only to us, but it appears in us. What appears in us appears to us with a sense of division. बहुत बड़ी बात है जी. What appears in our being appears as though appears to us with a sense of division. Thus, the drishyam can never be independent of drishti. Drishya can have negation, drishti has no negation. Drishya has negation, drishti has no negation, and we are that drishti. That very drishti in relation to the drishyam grammatically becomes drashta. You see, drashta means the seer of. The sight itself looks a seer. See, there is only, and therefore what is, the wave is non-separate from the water. But then if you create a division, water is the source, wave is the creation, etc. If you get into this language, then we say the water supports the wave. Water supports the wave, the language comes. But actually there is no supported relation. Similarly here also there is no seer-seen relation, because the seen is non-separate from the sight, the drishti. That's why the Shruti says drishya can have negation, drishti has no negation. Nahi drashtuhu drishtehe viparalopo vidyate avinashipato, eternal. That is the truth. Every what we call an individual is a drishti. Every individual is a drishti really. When you say person, what is he minus the sight? There is no person minus the sight. There is no person minus the sight. So when you say person, it is his sight. He is aware. That being aware, that sight alone is the, in equation with the form, identified with the form, is called the person, an individual. That individual form, the form is an individual form, a given form. A given form is called an individual form, but there is no given sight. There are given forms falling in the sight, and sight is not a given sight. It is not a given sight. Sight is absolute. Because every form is that sight. Thus, the Shruti, having stated that the source saw and created, and then it says that source thou art. I am just skipping all other details. So Deva Somidamagrasi, Dekameva Advitiyam, Tad Ikshata, etc. And then Tad Tejaha Srijata. And then having gone through a lot of details, and it says Tat Satyam Sa Atma Tattvamasi, that source thou art. Thus, inferring something inert as the source of the world is not a right inference. Why should you have to infer anyway? First of all, even before you sit down to find out whether it is a right inference or wrong inference, we fundamentally dismiss the Purvapakshi by saying the truth is not an object of inference. Then we give a concession, all right, what kind of inference have we made? First of all, we say inference is not a pramana, because all inferences are based upon sense data. And the Purvapakshi, when he says the source of the world must be inert, what is the basis? He says only the inert can come from the inert. Meaning from the inert alone can come the inert. And the examples are given also. Only a goat's kid can come out of the goat. A goat can have a goat. Because as are the qualities of the cause, so are the qualities of the effect. So a pot made of clay will be a clay pot. A wave made of water is a watery wave. A mud pot, a golden ornament made of gold is a golden ornament. So the effect definitely inherits the qualities of the cause. If this is the fundamental principle for the Purvapakshi, this is the fundamental principle. The effect inherits the qualities of the cause. Now, based on that principle, then we can study the qualities of the effect, then infer the cause. You see, the principle is the effect inherits the qualities of the cause. If the effect inherits the qualities of the cause, then you study the qualities of the effect and infer the cause. This kind of inference doesn't work in finding out the source of the universe, because between the source of the universe and the universe there is no causation. There is no causation. Between rope and snake there is no causation. The snake doesn't inherit the qualities of the rope. So, it doesn't inherit the qualities of the rope. Supposing the rope undergoes change and becomes the snake, then the snake would inherit the qualities of the rope. Like the curd inherits the qualities of the milk. That's called causation. That's called causation. But here, supposing I see only rope as snake. Instead of judging it as a rope, I am judging it as snake. Then where is the causation? There is no causation there. There is only distortion. There is a distortion of perception. Causation can't be distortion. If the milk becomes curd, it is not distortion. It is not viparitata. There is no viparitata. I mean, there is no distortion in it. It's perfectly explicable. Milk changes and become curd. Usme kya problem? So the Shruti says, Shruti Pramana says, hey, don't try to find out the source of the universe through the known method, known to the Jiva all over the creation. That known method is, you study the effect and infer the cause. This approach, using the causation to arrive at things, studying the effects to arrive at the cause, this approach is not going to help you, because between the source and the universe there is no causation. It is seen so. The source is seen differently. That is why it's called Maya Srishti, not causation Srishti. Maya Srishti is nothing but distorted perception. When you use the word creation, we call it Maya Srishti. Either you call the snake distorted perception, otherwise called avidya, a wrong perception, wrong judgment. And if we want to use the word Srishti, if we want to describe the snake as a creation, then describe it as Maya Srishti. Call it avidya or call it Maya Srishti. There is no problem. Call it avidya, call it Maya Srishti. What we call Maya Srishti is in fact avidya. What is in fact avidya, concessionally described as Maya Srishti. But what is it in fact? Avidya. My embodiment is my distorted perception about myself. My being an individual, my being divided from the world. In fact, every problem that I feel about myself is a distorted perception about myself. Now, if the source of the universe hasn't changed and become the world, then how can you say there is a causation between the two? So, if I study the world, what do I study? It's all inert. Then what is the conclusion? Because the world is inert, the source also must be inert. This kind of conclusion is being simplistic. In that case, Shruti would not be a pramanam. Shruti becomes a pramanam only in the matter of unfolding something where the causation fails. Because if causation can help me, studying the effects can help me to know. Studying the effects if it can help me to know the cause, then Shabda is not a pramanam, then my own inference becomes the pramanam. My own logic. Inference is one of the faculties that we have. Like scientists use their own anumana to infer things. They don't go to Shabda Pramanam. Where the cause can be inferred or understood by the study of the effects, there Shabda is not a pramanam. But here between the universe and the source there is no causation, and the very one who is aware of the whole universe happens to be the source. Chetanam happens to be the source and Jadam happens to be the creation. Universe is inert and the source is Chetanam. Universe is objectifiable, the source is unobjectifiable. The universe has a beginning and an end. The source has no beginning and an end. The universe is objectified. The source is the subject. So between the source and the universe there is no causation. It is a correctable perception. Perception of individuality and the division, perception of the universe, perception of the three states is a correctable perception. Whereas I use my senses and my logic to find out the source only by studying what I see, and it is not going to lead me anywhere. That means human beings, meaning jivas, do not have a pramana which can tell them what the source is. ये बहुत बड़ी बात है. Human beings don't have a pramana. They may be the truth, but they don't have a pramana to tell that. They may remain the truth, unaware, ignorant of that fact. They may remain the source of everything. They remain the truth of everything. But remaining the truth of everything is not enough because I am ignorant of it. Somebody must come. Must come and tell and unfold. And that which unfolds by being the truth is not inference, logic, that faculty of inference. It is the Shabda. You see. Thus we have to recognize the glory. The most beautiful thing in the creation is the Shabda Pramana. That Veda, that Vedanta that is there really to talk to man is the greatest blessedness that human beings really enjoy. I mean, you can never overstate it. This fact can never be overstated. Therefore, the Purvapakshi is said, my dear Purvapakshi, Pradhanam, the Achetanam, the Jadam is not Ikshatyadhikaranam. Okay, we are through with this particular sutra called Gaunaschaina Atma Shabda. Now, there is introduction to the next sutra. And in order to understand the introduction to the next sutra, you have to just remember a couple of details. Here the Purvapakshi is the Sankhya. Sankhya is a school founded by Kapila. And Kapila's disciple is Patanjali. That's how we know it to be. Their main thing is Shabdam is not Pramanam. We can know the truth all by ourselves, through our logic. Because there are only two faculties man enjoys, the great faculties. One is perception, the other is inference. Everything else comes under inference. Artha, Patyan, Palabdhi, Upamanasa, Bohi. Pancha Pramanas just boil down to only two Pramanas. I can see the world and I can understand the causation working in it. I can see causation. So there must be some cause. Every effect has a cause. That is called Anumana. If somebody falls sick, say there must be some cause. Even though we don't know what the cause is, but there should be a cause. This is what is called Anumana. Kapila says Veda, Shabda is not a Pramana. We don't have to go to Shabda Pramana. Then he used the Shabda Pramanam. He used the Anumana Pramanam. Then he arrived at some conclusions, and those conclusions are this. One conclusion is, the one who is conscious of the world is a conscious reality. And the world is an inert reality. There are two realities. There are two realities. There is no Advaitam there, there is a Dvaitam. An inert reality, the world is an eternal inert reality, and consciousness is an eternal conscious reality. This is one thing. There are two realities. The second point, the second conclusion that they arrived at is that due to aviveka, due to lack of reflection, this Purusha, the conscious being, is in association with the inner. This is called Sangha. They call it Sangha. It is not Adhyasa, it is Sangha. Association. And because of the association, there is a feeling that I am the body and I am limited, etc., because of which there is a samsara. Therefore, samsara is due to the Sangha association. One reality, the conscious reality, is in association with the inert reality. Therefore, the conscious being feels that I am a samsara. Clear? It is a Sangha. Therefore, his moksha, this conscious being, the Purusha can gain moksha through dissociation. And for dissociation, you have to do meditation. And for that, you have a certain, what you call a program. And that program takes shape in the hands of Kapila's student. Kapila gave the school. Patanjali came up with a program for moksha. That program is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Dharana, Dhyana, jo bhi hai. Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Understand? Asana, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. These called Ashta Anga Yoga, 8-limbed program. So ultimately you gain the Samadhi, total dissociation with the body, then you are liberated. That is a program. But we are more interested in the school. What does the school say? Vedanta says this conscious being is the source of the material world. There is no division between the creation and the being. Whereas the Kapila Sankhya says, well, this is one reality, this is another reality. There are two realities. Clear? Another point is, every individual is one Purusha, and each Purusha is unlimited. Such unlimited Purushas are unlimited in number. Each person is a conscious being, and each one is a Purusha, and each Purusha is unlimited, and each Purusha is unlimited, and such unlimiteds are unlimited in number. The unlimiteds in dimension are unlimited in number. Okay, these are all really not even worth talking about. We just, Shankaracharya doesn't even. Phalgu prayojanatvat, he says. Phalgu prayojanatvat means इसमें कोई प्रयोजन नहीं. Because, it is wrong to discuss with everybody. Because only when you see that there is going to be some prayojanam, then you undertake a discussion. Supposing you clearly see that it is of no use, then why discuss? A person who can think that there can be unlimited number of unlimited conscious beings, you can't discuss much. Because how do you prove the unlimited, how do you prove another conscious being anyway? You can't prove another conscious being. You see? But anyway, this is the background. Now, what we need to understand this paragraph is that these Sankhyas look upon matter, that is the Prakriti, as facilitator of living and facilitator of liberation. This is called Bhoga and Apavarga. These two terms you can pick up. It is the Prakriti. They call this Prakriti. Prakriti means matter. The matter as manifest is Prakriti. The matter as its source, the unmanifest matter, is called Pradhanam. Are you able to follow? Simple. There are only a handful of words. The subtle matter is the Pradhanam. The gross matter is called Prakriti. This Prakriti is none other than the Pradhanam. It facilitates Purusha's living in the body. Because I eat Bhoga. Bhoga. Eat Bhoga. Prakriti helps me live. Then Apavarga means moksha. How does it help me to gain moksha? I withdraw from it. I withdraw from it. Withdrawal from it becomes what? Moksha. In that way they say, Pradhanam facilitates, the matter facilitates survival as well as liberation for the conscious being. Matter facilitates survival as well as liberation. That survival is bhoga, enjoyments, etc. And apavarga means moksha. Now, here he says, because Pradhanam serves the Purusha. Pradhanam is all important for Purusha. To survive he requires Pradhanam, and even to get liberation he requires Pradhanam, because he uses the mind to think, and the mind also comes under Prakriti. Rajoguna, Tamoguna help me gain Bhoga. Sattoguna helps me to gain Jnanam. Therefore, Sattoguna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna, three gunas jointly help me enjoy the world, survive in the world, and also dissociate. I can do Viveka and dissociate myself from the world. Thus, Rajoguna, Tamoguna, Sattoguna, these are the three gunas which are the gunas of matter, and these three gunas help the individual not only to survive but also enjoy and ultimately get liberated. That means Pradhanam, the matter, is all important for the Chetanam. Because it is all important for Chetanam, sometimes it can be described as Chetanam. बहुत बड़ी argument है जी. It's all important for me. Here, Pradhanam is all important for the Purusha. Therefore, maybe your Shruti, when it is talking about he saw, because it is so closely associated with the Purusha, it is serving the Purusha, therefore, maybe it says it saw. Like, the boss and the servant. And the servant can always represent the boss. He is myself, you can say. The king can say, he is myself, he is my general, he is myself. Whatever he says, that's final, he is myself. My general is myself. Whatever he says, that I am saying it. In that manner, actually there is an affinity between Pradhana and Purusha. Therefore, because the Pradhanam serves the Purusha, and therefore when the Shruti said, he saw, even though it is said he saw, that is a quality of the Purusha, but imposed on the Pradhana. In this manner, in a roundabout way, the Pradhanavadi wants to prove that the Jagat Karanam is only Pradhana. Okay, now let us read. Atha uchcheta, if it were said, agar kaha jaye to, agar kaha gaya to, atha uchcheta, it is yak bhi hai, vidhilinga bhi hai, and yak bhi hai. Uchcheta means if it were said. By the Purvapakshi, if it was said by the Purvapakshi. How? Achetane pi pradhane, even if the pradhanam is inert, bhavati atma shabdaha. This word atma can be applied to pradhana. We also saw this point, not only the matter can't see, in fact, the word Atma is not applicable to matter, because the word matter, the word Atma applies only to what is Swarupa. Swarupa means one's Swarupa. Swarupa. Atma Shabda is applicable to my actuality. Even for the body, Atma Shabda can't be used because it's not my Swarupam. Swa, Apna Rupam. Apna hi Rupam. The unrenounceable nature of oneself alone is described, is referred to by the Shruti as Atma. Atma is a word referring to the intrinsic nature of oneself. Now the intrinsic nature of oneself, the unrenounceable nature of oneself is only Chetanam, not the form. Therefore the word Atma is never applicable to Jadam. The word Atma is not applicable to Jadam. The word Atma is applicable only to Chetanam, because Chetanam is the one thing that is untranscendable, unnegatable, unchangeable, unnegatable, untranscendable, undisprovable, is nature of oneself. Whereas the form can be transcended, can be disproved, can be resolved, can be ultimately disproved. See? The final destiny of all this whole creation is disproval. Its immediate destiny is laya. Taranga's immediate destiny is it subsides. But in my thinking, I can disprove it. It is not a wave, it is water. That is called disproval. It is a notion. It is a notion. In fact, anything that can have a laya can also be disproved as a batha. Bahut badi baat hai. It is a very huge breakthrough in the life of a student. Anything that I can transcend is false, is not the actuality. Anything that can have laya is also available for bodha. Meaning, what can resolve is available for understanding, for being disproved. And understood as false is not there. What is not resolved in day-to-day life, what doesn't disappear in day-to-day life, what is not transcended in day-to-day life, what never resolves and what is never transcended, what never ceases to be evident, alone is the truth. Everything else, not. And therefore Atma Shabda is applicable only to Chetanam. Atma Shabda is not applicable to Jada. This is what we said in the previous. Now the Purva says, somehow or other we can interpret in such a manner that the Atma Shabda becomes applicable even to matter. How? Because matter serves Purusha and the Atma Shabda can be used for Purusha. But because Pradhanam is serving him, that Atma Shabda can be applied to Pradhanam also. Atha Ucheta Achetane Pradhane, even in the sense of the inert matter, Bhavati Atma Shabda, the word Atma is applicable. Atmanaha, because for this Purusha, Sarvartha Karitva, this matter serves this Purusha in many ways. Arthakari means useful, Anarthakari means harmful. Anarthakari need not be, Anarthakaritvam is different from Nishprayojanatvam. To be useless is different from to be harmful. You understand? There are a lot of things which are not useful. But it need not be harmful. Arthakari means useful. Anarthakari means useless. But if you get occupied with the useless, it becomes harmful. हाँ जी, ये तो बहुत बड़ी बात की. हमारे लिए तो बहुत बड़ी बात है. आपके लिए तो छोटी बात होगा, हमारे लिए तो बहुत बड़ी बात. If you get occupied with the useless, that very occupation becomes harmful. Harmful. Getting preoccupied with useless things becomes harmful. And therefore, anyway, here, the Purusha, this Pradhanam, Sarvarthakaritva, being useful for the Purusha in many ways. Yatha, just as. Rajnyaha, Raja ka, Sarvarthakarini Bhritye. He has a servant who does everything, who runs errands for the king, who serves him in every way. It serves, a servant serves the king in every way. A servant serves the king in every way. Sarvarthakarini Bhritye. Bhavati Atma Shabda. And the Atma Shabda is used, he is myself. Atma Shabda means myself. Myself. A synonym of Atma is myself. Myself is called Atma. Because the sense of the word Atma is Swarupam. Apna Roop. So the king can always refer to his servant as myself. He is myself. Because he is useful, he serves him in every way. So yatha sarvarthakarini vritye bhavati atma shabda. And what does the king say? Mama atma, he is myself. Bhadrasena, he is a Bhadrasena, he is myself. This kind of expression is there in this world. I can refer to my son and say, he is myself. The one who makes me happy, my own son, the one who makes me happy in every way is myself. My servant also who makes me happy in every way, I can refer to him as myself. Or the king can refer to the general as myself because the general serves him in every way. He is myself. Therefore his signature will do because he is myself. In that manner, Atma Shabda can be used for matter because the matter is serving Atma, the Purusha. Atma Shabda can be used for matter because matter is serving Purusha according to the Purva Pakshi. The Purva Pakshi, why? Because how does the matter serve the Purusha? The Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, Tamo Gunas help him to survive, to enjoy and ultimately to get liberated. Pradhanam hi, this Pradhanam, Purushasya Atmanaha, Purushasya, Purushaka Atmaka, Bhoga Apavargau, it facilitates survival and enjoyment and Apavargaha Moksha. How does it help me survive, enjoy and liberate? I say this matter has got three gunas. Tamo Guna. Tamo Guna and Rajo Guna help me enjoy. Rajoguna creates in me ambition. Rajoguna creates in me ambition for pleasures. Tamoguna creates all impulses. And Sattoguna creates in me viveka. So Rajoguna, Tamoguna help me survive and enjoy in the world. And Sattoguna helps me to liberate myself. In that manner, Pradhanam alone helps the Purusha in survival as well as moksha. So that way is serving him in every way. There is no third way anyway. Only Bhoga and Apavarga. There are only two usefulnesses. So Pradhanam helps him. Because Pradhanam helps the Atma, both in Bhoga and Apavarga, kurvat karte huve. Present participle. Serving the Atma in terms of Bhoga and Apavarga, Upakaroti, serves him. Facilitating Bhoga, facilitating Apavarga, Pradhanam serves the Purusha. Rajnyaha iva Bhrityaha, like the servant serves the king. How does the servant king serve the king? Sandhi vigrahadishu vartamana. Always intervening in Sandhi. He is always there in times of peace. He is there in terms of conflict. He is there to bring about reconciliation. And Sandhi means reconciliation. And he is also there. He is also there in deciding a war. Sandhi means reconciliation. Vigraha means war. In fact, there is no war and peace. There is only Sandhi and Vigraha. There is no Shanti. When Sandhi suits you, Sandhi. That is also a kind of a war. Reconciliation also is a war. Because nobody literally reconciles. Reconciliation is a strategy. A temporary strategy is a reconciliation. You look into Indian history, they all came to some kind of reconciliation and then stabbed them in the back. So a servant serves the king in both Sandhi and Vigraha. And therefore the king can say, is myself. And therefore, the word Atma, which is literally applicable to Chetanam, can also be applied to Jadam, because Jadam serves the Chetanam. So, when the Shastra used the word Atma, it need not mean Purusha, it can mean Pradhanam, because the word Atma can be applied to Pradhanam. Therefore, when the Shruti said, Sa Atma Tattvamasi, that Atma Shabda need not be referring to Chetanam, it can be referring to Jadam, because the Atma Shabda can mean Jadam, because Jadam serves the Atma. Like the servant can be called the king because he is all the time Serving the king, in fact, all the power is delegated to him. The general can be called the king because he is almost like the king. Because he does everything for the king, including signing his checks. So he is the king. We can say really, Mrs. Gandhi is the Prime Minister. Something like that, because she is the everything, she does all that the Prime Minister is supposed to do, she does. So, Sadeva Saumya Davagrasi Vegamevadvidiyam Tat Satyam Sa Atma Tattvamasi, that Atma Shabda need not come in the way. You don't have to bank on that word Atma. You don't have to bank on the word it saw. It saw. The source saw. And the source is Atma. These two words you don't have to bank on to arrive at the conclusion that the Chetanam, the source of everything, is Chetanam. Because the source of matter cannot be non-matter. The source of matter has to be matter. Therefore, no scripture can make the illogical logical. No scripture can make the illogical logical. To conclude consciousness as the source of matter is illogical, because what is logical is the effect inherits the qualities of the cause. Therefore, the cause can't have qualities contrary to the effect. The cause should have the qualities, the same qualities as the effects. When we study the world, we know it is inert, therefore the source also must be inert. When we study the world, it has three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamo gunas. Object is tamo guna, this is tamas. And energy, activity, human activity is called rajoguna. Prana Shakti is rajoguna. And thinking capacity is sattva guna. This is the whole Srishti. So if this Srishti has sattva, rajas, tamo gunas, then the source also must be having sattva gunas, these three gunas. Therefore, this is logical. That the source of the universe must be inert is logical. Even if the Shastra says Chetanam, it is illogical, and the Shastram cannot make the illogical logical. Therefore, our duty lies in interpreting the Shastram to fall in line with logicality. That's what everybody says. We have to interpret the Shastram to fall in line with the logicality. And therefore, this is how we have to interpret. Sometimes the king's servant can be called the king. Similarly, the servant of the Atma can be called Atma. Okay. Or, Bhashyakara says, same argument. Purvapakshi is cited here by Siddhanta. Purvapakshi says, or Atma Shabda need not mean Chetanam. Atma Shabda can mean both Chetanam and Jadam. There ends the matter. Who told you that Atma Shabda means only Chetanam, not Jadam? Atma Shabda can mean Chetanam, Atma Shabda can also mean Jadam. It has two meanings. And that he says here, Athava, or Ekayeva Atma Shabdaha, the same word Atma, Chetana, Achetana, Vishayo Bhavishyati. It can mean Chetanam, it can also mean Acetanam. Chetana, Achetana, Yoho Vishayaha. It becomes the Vishaya means what? The sense. That means Atma Shabda has its sense in both Chetanam and Acetanam. Vishayaha Bhavishyati ho jayega. Bhavishyati means Bhavati. Can be taken to mean. We can take the Atma Shabda to mean both Jadam and Chetanam. I mean, do you have instances? Do you have any examples to support what you say? Says, yes, Bhutatma. Gadbad ho gaya. He is a scholar. He says, Bhutatma. These elements are called Bhutatma. It is Bhutam, but it is also called Atma. It's a Bhutatma. Indriyas are called Indriyatma. And the mind is called Shuddhatma, Ashuddhatma. Antakaranam also is called Atma. Body is called Atma. This is called Bhutatma. Elemental self. Indriyas are called Indriyatma. Senses are called Indriyatma. Means what? Sensory self, the sense organs as the self, Pranatma. And you have Punyatma, Papatma. Even Punyam can be called Atma. And a Papa, even a Papi is called Papatma. Is also, there is no difference because Punyatma is Atma, Papatma is also Atma. Tell you, new problems will come. Therefore, Indriyatma, Bhutatma, Idija, Prayoga Darshanat, we do use these expressions. Why are we using these expressions? Because we have accepted the word Atma to mean many things. It can mean Jadam, it can mean Chetanam. Therefore, when the Shruti said Atma, Satma, Tattvamasi, that Atma need not mean Chetanam, it can mean Jadam. Yatha, just as Eka eva Jyotish Shabdaha, just as the same fire, heat and light put together is called Jyoti. Jyoti means where there is heat and luminosity. Eka eva Jyotish Shabdaha, Agni Shabdaha. Agni is Jyoti. Kratu Jwalana Vishayaha. It can mean Kratu, a ritual. A ritual means fire. It is actually fire, I am calling it a ritual. Jwalanam, a flame, actually it is a fire, I call it flame. It is actually fire, I call it the sun. It is actually fire, I can call it candle. The same fire gains different, it is used in the sense of Jyoti. The word Jyoti is the same, but Jyoti can mean Jyoti, that word Jyoti can mean a kratu, a ritual. The word Jyoti can mean a flame. The word Jyoti can mean the sun. In fact, the word Jyoti can mean his girlfriend also. So Jyoti can mean all these things. Therefore, in that manner, Atma can mean Jadam, Atma can mean Chetanam. So, banking on that particular word Atma, banking on that particular word he saw and created, you can't jump to the conclusion that the whole inert universe has the consciousness as the source. It's illogical. Because the cause of the inert must be inert. Cause of the inert must be inert. Tatra kutaha, therefore, how, why? Etad atma shabdat, just on the basis of this word atma. Ikshatehe, this word he saw, agaunattvamiti. How can it not be? Just on the basis of this word, Atma, how can you conclude that he saw need not mean Gaunam? Why should you take it as Mukhyam? If seeing is literal, then it is Chetanam. If seeing is Gaunam, it can be inert. So when we say the source saw, not literally saw, as though saw. Like what? The bank as though wants to fall. You understand? A bank as though wants. The sun is seeing me. The sun is seeing me does not mean literally seeing me, as though seeing me. The moon is seeing me, not literally seeing me, but as though seeing me. In the same manner, the source of the universe saw, not literally saw. In order to literally see, it has to be Chetanam, but here it happens to be Jadam, and Jadam did not literally see Jadam. as thou saw. So all that Shruti means is the source of the world as thou saw. Not the source of the world saw, but the source of the world as thou saw. As thou saw what? It's time to change and become the world. That is what it saw. The Pradhanam, the unmanifest, saw that it's time to transform and change and become the world. Therefore, despite the Shruti statement that the source saw, we can interpret it to mean Pradhanam. Despite the use of the word Atma, we can still interpret it to mean Pradhanam. And therefore, Agavanattvamiti Kutaha. Why are you so particular that it should mean only Chaitanya? Ityataha Uttaram Patati. In answer to this whole paksha, the next sutra comes. Uttaram Sutram Patati. In answer to the above Purva Paksha comes the next sutra. This is called Sangati. Sangati means connection between one sutra and another sutra. This is called Sangati. Bhashyakara showed the connection. Okay. And we'll see this just a few minutes. Says Tanishthasya Moksha Upadesha. Tanishthasya Moksha Upadeshat is a very, very clinching sutra. Clinches. Even though the Purvapakshi may not understand, but for a thinking person, it's a very clinching. It has no answer. Says, Tanishthasya. The source is only that. Tasmin nishthasya. That tat means Jagat Karanam. Tat means Jagat Karanam. Jagat Karanam is only Chetanam. Why? Because Tasmin Nishthasya, the one who takes the root in it. जो व्यक्ति उस कारण में निष्ठा पाता है, and निष्ठा पाना means the one whose vision is rooted in the source. The source of the universe indeed is Chetanam. This is the Siddhanta Sutra. The source of the universe indeed is Chetanam, not Jadam. The source of the universe is indeed Chetanam, because the Shruti says the one who is rooted in the source, the one whose vision, the one who gets the vision of the source, Moksha Upadeshat. There is a Upadesha, there is a statement that the Shruti states, declares that such an individual gets moksha, gets liberated. The source of the universe cannot be Jadam, because here it is said the individual gets liberated by the vision of the source. If the vision of the source liberates an individual, then that source has to be Chaitanya. Listen again. If the vision of the vision pertaining to the source of the universe can liberate an individual, then that source cannot be inert. It has to be Chetanam. Because if the vision of the Jadam can liberate an individual, then there would have been no bondage, because one does have the vision of the matter. One does have the vision of the Jadam. If the vision of the Jadam can liberate a person, then everybody should get liberated, because everybody has the vision of the Jadam. But here the Shruti says the vision of the source liberates an individual. If the vision of the source liberates an individual, then definitely the source cannot be jadam, because the vision of the jadam doesn't liberate, and if it can liberate, it would have liberated, because man already does have the vision of the jadam. And therefore, on the basis of this moksha upadesha vakya, where lies human moksha? And there the Shruti says, man's moksha lies in his vision of the source. Man's moksha does not lie in the vision of the creation. Man's liberation lies in the vision of the source. And that source cannot be jadam, because the Shruti says the vision of the source liberates, and the vision of the jadam can't liberate. And for this reason also, tanishthasya moksha upadeshat is a hetu, is the reason. Because of the declaration on the part of the Shruti that man gets liberated in his understanding of the source, we say that the source is not jadam. Therefore the Purvapaksha is wrong. Sankhya school is wrong in inferring the Jagat Karanam as jadam, because the Shruti says the vision of the source should liberate a person. The moksha ka upadesha hai. This is the sutra. Understand? Tanishthasya, the tanishthasya jivasya, tanishthasya purushasya. An individual who has a nishtha in the source. An individual who has a nishtha means understand, to be clear, that is called nishtha. To have nishtha means, it is not an action. To be very, fire is hot and it can never be cold. That's called nishtha. Clarity, free from ambiguity and doubt, is called nishtha. We may use any amount of language, taking root, take primary root, taking then secondary root. It all is all language acceptable. We have to have accommodation for the language, as long as we appreciate that language to mean only understand, clarity of the source, free from doubt and ambiguity, etc. That's called a nishtha, and Bhagavan has used the word nishtha and we should respect it. The one who has a nishtha in the source is said to be liberated. And Bhashkar is going to explain what is nishtha. Nishtha means jnanam. You see, why it is called jnana nishtha? You see, jnana nishtha is used, the word, the phrase jnana nishtha. The phrase jnana nishtha is used with Shruti in contrast as a different from karma nishtha. Understand? Jnana nishtha is not used in contrast to jnanam. Having jnanam alone is not enough. I must have jnana nishtha. That is not what the Shastra says. Jnana nishtha is a phrase used as different from karma nishtha. Have jnana nishtha in contrast to karma. A person who is a karmata has karma nishtha. And a person who understands the limitation of the karma, and a person who understands, who has got vairagyam, he has got jnana nishtha. As a jijnasa, he has a nishtha in vichara. And when he understands, that is jnana nishtha. When he is studying, it is jnana nishtha. When he understands, also jnana nishtha. Therefore, jnana nishtha is not something different in addition to jnana. Jnana nishtha is not in addition to jnana. Jnana nishtha is not an extension of jnanam. Because jnana nishtha is not used in contrast to jnanam. Jnana nishtha is used in contrast to karma nishtha. And that is not understood by the Vedantis, and a lot of people, what they create problems for themselves. I have jnanam, but I have no jnana nishtha. Where is it all that said? कहाँ लिखा है सारे? जो लिखा है वो तो पढ़ते नहीं, जो नहीं लिखा है उसको पता नहीं कहाँ से आते हैं ये सारी बातें. Bhashyakara says really a person who has no vairagyam has adhikaritvam in karmanistha. The one who has adhikaritvam, the one who has got vivek vairagya, he has got adhikara in jnananishtha. One is karmanishtha, the other is jnananishtha. Now here the students get into this kind of confusion, there is not only you should have jnanam, but after the jnanam you should have jnananishtha. Well, what is that? Because of very mediocre thinking. As if jnanam is not complete. Clarity is not clarity complete. Understanding is understanding, not nishtha. If there is a doubt and etc., then still vichara, let it be complete. When the knowledge is free from doubt and error and confusion, that's called knowledge. But anyway, here the Acharya says the Jagat Karanam cannot be Jadam because the Nishtha in it, understanding it, is supposed to liberate an individual. And therefore that source can't be Jadam. Because if the vision of the Jadam can liberate, I already had the vision of the Jadam. Enough of it. I will have liberation. Therefore, for this reason also, Jagat Karanam is not Jadam. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevamsishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.